them today, so she pulled them. If Kristen has to go at 11, and that's when our budget adoption hearing.
I told them, I said, I will public get through the budget adoption and then soon after.
But a public hearing has to be open for how long?
It's not inflation.
It doesn't say. There's no requirement. It's just,
There's
okay.
comment or objection at the beginning of it, we can move on
yeah,
from what we've done in the past.
Okay, I didn't know,
yeah.
you know.
Is that said it?
Holly, did you?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Oh, never mind. We got it.
It does.
This takes a few minutes. Okay,
So if we could do that just shortly, and then I'll.
but what I was gonna say is, we have to at least allow a few minutes for people to show up.
This will be, the date got messed up when Greg Smith.
Technically. Okay. never mind.
The website.
Did you have anything you wanted,
Thank you. Affects your charge.
that you would normally tell us there? You know, tell us. You have to, what I'm gonna say.
Normal things.
Well, I will engage in discussion and it's just a discussion. You know, when it comes to Crystal now, okay, when it comes to Crystal now, I'm not hard on us buying some of the services now that it doesn't look like anybody offers it. I want it, and that we're gonna have to fix it. So, and if strategic planning, maybe Bobby Cheryl can take his on.
What to manage.
Every time I do, she has.
No, we need work session. Okay, first of all, mandated.
It's an update.
Or what level, we need to do where that non-mandated needs are they, whether it's mandated or not, which
They
means
have one
generate
person
revenue.
over at like a cocktail
You know,
party,
and then
that's
how
the
are we
last
gonna
one,
do
so
that?
get their tickets
Because
or
I think
something.
the thing about the library.
At least I'm happy.
It was last minute.
Yeah, that's nice.
To summer, get our principals and then say, we're looking at some of these, but we need to make it public. And we can't like, pull that's going on. Oh, we don't, but it's part of the budget process. Me, I like everybody to be right now. And go, well, yeah, you did tell us, you did tell us. There's still critics. 90%. That's for sure.
At least.
And sometimes when I did that, 99, and that's sad.
All right, good morning, everybody. June 20th, 2024, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Regular session. You'll stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Eva. All right, agenda late items. We've already taken care of voucher approval late items. Any late items? All right. Agenda approval.
I move to approve today's Harney County Court meeting agenda. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve today's county court agenda. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And motion carries. Minutes approval. We have two sets of minutes to approve special session from June 10th.
I move to approve Harney County's court special session meeting, June 10th minutes.
I'll second.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve the special session minutes from June 10th. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. And last regularly scheduled June 5th county court regular session minutes.
I move to approve the Harney County Court meeting minutes from June 5th, 2024. Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the county court regular session minutes from June 5th. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, motion carries. And at 10:02, we'll go into public hearing for fee schedule for the building officials' proposed fee schedule. We'll start with that one first, and we'll move into environmental health fee schedule.
Okay.
So, sir, a little background on the existing fee schedule and your methodology and
Sure.
what steps you took in updating these.
So when I came on, in March, and actually before that, I started doing a little bit of research into the fees at Harney County. They have not been updated in almost 20 years, and, looked at that with the state of Oregon. They really had trouble going back to find even when the last record was, which 20 years is way out of line. So we've looked at, the fees of Klamath and Lake County. We've also looked at the fees of Grant County. We have kind of balanced them around Klamath and Lake County as a similar kind of economy and things that are going on, some of the growth that's coming. And that's what we based them on. So we, spent a lengthy amount of time working on this. And we're able to, submit them to the state of Oregon, April 25th for a 45-day review by the state, which we've completed. And so now we're just here for, to get these approved for a July 1st roll.
Was that 45 days? Was that also a public comment period
Yes,
for the local, any
Yeah.
comment? And have we received any public comment? Did you receive any?
no, the state didn't either. No.
Didn't, okay.
And this is typically, fee changes are typically every year. And it's better to do a fee change every year of really small little adjustments for inflation, things like that, than it is to do a 10 or 20 years, because then you could end up with some real steep increases. And I don't think we've done that here. I think we've kept them in check. But we do have to come up to meet what it costs for us to go out and do business and build a department here that can afford to do the work locally.
Can you briefly speak to the state's role in their review of it?
So the state looks at, our existing fees and then they look at our proposed fees. And they decide if they're appropriate or not. If we were to go from $15 on something to 50, the state would tell us that's not appropriate, you can't do that. This is an average fee for that service. And so that's what they look at.
Okay.
And so they basically tell us yes or no, which they've done. And then we just spend another week testing fees that were approved to make sure that they'll, total up properly when we start from this July 1st. So we're all ready. And the team is actually, putting the new fee structure together with new fee forms.
Go ahead.
Have you, had any conversation with our builders in the area?
Yeah, we've been talking to them about it for, the 3 months I've been here. They understand it. They said, yeah, that's just cost of doing business. You have to be able to afford to get out. We want local representation. We know this is what it's gonna take. And so, because they're seeing a faster turnaround in permits, plan review, inspections, and they like that, so.
Thank you.
While we are on the building portion of the fee revision, any public comment, any questions?
As,
State your name.
Barbara Kennedy. I tried downloading the package yesterday and there was a lot of gaps. First of all, there was supposed to be 31 pages and we were getting, and it was, I know it's because of the software, it wasn't. Anyway, but I could only download 15 pages and I could not tell from this what, say if a house cost 80,000, what their building fees and everything would be. I mean, how to project. Being a former builder too, you have to estimate what you're gonna be putting into this thing, and I couldn't tell from the 15 out of 31 pages that were downloadable where we were at.
Those are Excel files.
Yeah.
And the structural's not in there because the structural goes up yearly, because it's based on valuation of square footage.
Mhm.
And so that fee goes up automatically through the state.
Okay, and then part of it, that on pages that I was able to see, And I also say that, you know, the county court got the same thing that I did when we looked at the package. There were portions in there where there was another fee based on the percentage of the total project cost. So if your project cost came up to, say, 100,000, and then you add a percentage on top of that, you're doing a percentage on top of a percentage.
No, that's for commercial plan review, is what that is. And that's where, if you're doing $100,000 commercial mechanical plan review, that is what that fee for plan review is based on the percentage of the job cost. There's one at Heinz right now, Burns High School, where they're doing a very large mechanical project, so they paid a fee for plan review and permits based on that
But you're not
percentage.
seeing as a duplication of fee where your fee is partially on fees that you're already.
No, there's no duplication, and we're not doing anything new. This is how it's always been. Yeah, so we're not changing anything or adding any fees. We're just bringing the fees up to where they need to be.
Okay, so if your project was $100,000, what would you see? Say if this is a house, because we're getting a lot more lots.
But I can't tell you, I can't do math for you here just based on that. You have to talk to us.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I will.
No, absolutely. No, it's open information, and with the fees not being increased in 20 years, you know,
But also on these forms, there was for garbage disposal, ice maker.
yes. Yeah.
That wasn't in your old fees. so
No,
that's-
they are in there. If you look at the plumbing permit application, and this is one of the things that we're changing, is they have in one paragraph in really tiny lettering, they have clothes washer, dishwasher, drinking fountain.
I see that now, yeah.
Our new applications will have it all spelled out, so it's very easy for the customer to see what they need to do and how to fill it out. Because our goal is that you're not gonna have to come in to fill out the form, they're gonna be PDF fillable online. You'll be able to fill them out, scan them to us, you won't have to come into the office. You can make a call if you have a question, save time.
Okay,
So-
but this process, a builder would be able to estimate, so you can put it in his bid.
Yes, and we talk to them, you know, the builders come in every day to talk to us, or they'll call and talk to us.
Okay.
Is the existing, what you provided here just a little bit ago, the existing fees or the previous fees?
These are the existing fees right now until.
And are they, this document as it looks right now, is it online on the
Yes,
county's website?
yeah, it's just not a PDF fillable form. at this
Okay.
point.
So and I did, looking at the packet, at the agenda packet, these Excel sheets didn't copy over very well as far as adding them to the
Yeah.
agenda packet. So I would ask that, the meat of this document, those Excel forms, be put into something.
That's what we're doing right now.
You're working on that?
Yeah, because we had to go through the process with the state. There's a lot of hoops to jump through, which we've been doing for 3 months. And that's another problem with the length of time since they've been updated, that it's taken an exorbitant amount of time to fix a lot of things. Along with our operating plan and things like that, We've spent a lot of paperwork trying to get things updated, so that yearly we can update things. It's simply very easy for
Stay
everyone.
on top of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any other?
So will it all be in PDF format now instead of Excel? Is that kind of where you're moving to? or-
We're shooting for it. We're trying to update our website, struggling with that a little bit. Just takes a little bit more time. And so we're really trying to have it done by July 1st, so that those forms are on there. I can't promise it doesn't happen, but we're trying.
Is there anything we can do to help with struggling for the website stuff, or is that?
No, we actually have a training coming up with our new permit tech.
Okay.
And so, hopefully she's gonna be able to jump in and do some of that stuff. You know, we have a contract person that does it for us. She does a great job, but it just takes, you know, time to
So
remotely do this.
are you working with our webmaster on updating the?
Yes,
Okay,
And then she'll provide training to your new staff so that then they can perform some of the website. updates.
yes, yeah. Hopefully we can do this in a more timely fashion, because I hate reading.
Yeah, it becomes plenty.
Yeah.
Any other public comment on the building officials' proposed fee schedule? Then we shall move on to the environmental health fee schedule.
All right. So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jessie Barnes. I do the environmental health. And that's with all of the restaurant inspections, pools, hotels, as well as the on-site program. And the only fee increases we're gonna have is for the on-site program specifically. The health aspect side of it is not being increased at this. This is the old Harney County fee schedule. Just for reference.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't. Please. There's not one? No. So the original fees were set in 2014, and that is when the county originally contracted with the state to maintain their own on-site program. At that time, I believe the gentleman's name was Warren. He came up out of North Alturas, out of California, to do the on-site program and was here maybe once a week or once every other week. My predecessor was here 1 to 2 days a month for, to do the on-site program. And so there was very little reason to increase the fees at that time. State fees, the current, or what we would like to go to for the fee schedule, that is what the state fee is currently at. And that is based on a 2019 fee schedule. Grant County and Wheeler County, in which we contract with to provide on-site services, also use that same fee schedule. So by increasing our fees, we would stay similar to Grant and Wheeler County, as well as Lake County, Klamath, and some other jurisdictions. Same, I believe, as Malheur County. In addition to that, our folks in Harney County receive much quicker and more efficient service than before I started in 17. So, one of the other reasons that we have to increase the fees as well is because the state surcharge fee, which is the chunk of every permit that the state receives directly, is also increasing by $17.
So this is the current,
So yes, what I just handed out to you is the current on-site fee schedule.
And, but your
proposing,
proposed will be higher than this?
Yes.
Was that in this packet too, or was this just all building?
It's on page 21 of the online packet.
You should have a copy of,
In here?
yeah, the most recent info that I have from Jesse. Should be the last Staples thing.
do any of the contractors or residents, have there been any conversations you've had with any of them, knowing that it may be increasing?
Yes, I've spoken with a couple installers and they don't see any issue with it. And that is directly correlated to the increase in service and being here, being able to answer the phone, respond to folks. Doing site visits that are required in order to get a job started before you get the permit. That's fairly significant in the on-site world, especially when we're dealing with a major repair because someone's sewage is floating across the board. So we tried to deal with that as rapidly as possible. So they're like, good, it needs to happen. It hasn't happened in a really long time. From a homeowner standpoint, nobody wants to pay more for anything, but they understand, and I haven't had any pushback from anybody going, oh, that's too expensive. Which
So-
to me, I think it's
So it's
expensive.
been like 10 years since the
It's
fees.
been
increased.
2014 or 2014 was
Okay.
the last time the fees were approved. I guess would be the correct term.
What's the standard on these two for review and? I mean, are they usually in most places done on an annual basis too?
Most jurisdictions do them reevaluate their fees on an annual basis. A lot of jurisdictions, are following the state fee schedule. In other communities, on the west side of the state, their fees are almost double or triple what the state fee is. And that's how they operate. So,
So the fees that you have here are in line with or from the state schedule? Anything else? Any public comment on the environmental health fee schedule proposed? We didn't do a resolution. Don't know if we need to do that or if it's just a simple motion in adopting or.
I heard a motion on adopting a fee schedule.
Just so it's in the minutes, I would think.
I wish there was some kind of a guidebook on when and where you're supposed to do all that, but
If,
Dag's about as good as you get.
if Holly or Dag, listen in or discover that it needs a resolution or an approval other than a vote in the minutes, please let us know and we'll get that done.
Can I add one thing before you guys close this out?
Sure.
I just want everybody to know that for myself and Jesse to build a self-sustaining department here that is ran locally, that we provide local service, that a yearly adjustment of these fees is very important for us to be able to do that. We need to build reserves here, which we have not done. We need to work in an independent manner where we're not taking money from the general fund to where we're a fully enterprise fund, which all building departments are designed to do that with. So that's our goal. We want to cost the county nothing to be here and work off of permit fees exclusively, build reserves to weather bad times when we don't raise fees, and have the vehicles, have the reserves to weather those times. So we stay local, we keep a local presence here, not a state presence.
and the other side of that coin, correct me if I'm wrong, but the fees gathered within these programs stay within these programs.
Yes.
They do not come to the general fund or any other programs, so.
Small amounts of management fees for.
Administrative
HR, things
costs.
Like, exactly.
Yeah.
Small things, but yeah, for the most part, the bulk, electrical has to stay with electrical, all the building department stays with the building department. And that's the whole idea. That enterprise fund, it's an ongoing thing to support the building and community.
Rick, is there a time of year that is best for you all to do your review and then come to court? Should there be any ask for any adjustment? When you think about our budgeting cycle, when you think about how the state works, is there?
I think right now is the best time to do it. I really do, so that we're starting at the beginning of the fiscal year for the county. And we just know that we have to start in April so that we can be ready for now. We've started in March to try and get to this point. So it's taken us an extra 4 or 5 weeks.
So with the annual increase, do you still have to submit things to the state and have a
Yes.
45-day period? So that'll still be the kind of timeline getting
Yes.
up to this point.
But it'll be much easier because we'll have
Yeah,
it
yeah.
formatted, because they've had a lot of changes and things that they've taken fees away. And they have no idea if we don't do a fee change or at least an amendment every year. They don't know if we're charging something we're not supposed to charge for. We don't know because we're not asking the question. So goes right along with our operating plan and all these things that we have to do.
So we'll look for it in the month of June, pretty much in the future then.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And I think it's important too, if there's no change, I think it's important we bring it to you and just say there's no changes.
Yeah.
And we put it out there regardless.
As you kind of alluded to there too, or mentioned about, enterprise fund and being self-sufficient. In the past, the building department, planning is a general fund department. The building department is a fund of its own. But in the past, it has been shored up by general fund dollars. So it is the goal, as stated, for that not to happen and take less pressure or put less pressure on the general fund. So that's the overall goal there.
We want zero. We want to do zero. That's what our goal is.
All right, any further discussion? So then, I'll make a motion then to accept or approve, the revised building. We'll do them in two separate motions. The revised building officials proposed fee schedule.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve the revised, the 2024 building officials proposed fee schedule. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. And then I will follow that up with a motion to approve the 2024 environmental health fee schedule, proposed health fee schedule.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the 2024 environmental health fee schedule. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And motion carries.
Thank you.
Quick
Thank you, Rich.
question for Jesse.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I love
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
Thank you. I was like, sir, better than
There
that.
you go.
I always did in the report. I always sound like, yes, mom, you know. How did the DEQ soils workshop go in Harney County last month?
Oh, it was fantastic. Just a quick update. We looked at some test holes out on the Harney Valley, off of Oil Well and Old Experiment Station Road for potential home sites. We also looked at one up in the forest. We looked at a piece of property that is off of Foley Road next to the river that used to have a home on it. Now there's no home and there, it's kind of a sketchy location that is terrifying. However, we're able to get them approved for septic, so when that property eventually does sell, hopefully someone will be able to build a home there. In addition to that, we went to the Malheur Field Station and looked at their facilities and kind of their different types of uses between the homes and the compound itself with the bunkhouses and their RV park. And we're able to potentially be able to keep that in in-house in Harney County septic system rather than having them go through the WPCF permit process for an on-site wastewater treatment facility or having to put in lagoons. The folks that came here were super impressed with the different types of soils that we deal with, that I deal with on a regular basis. They found it interesting that there wasn't a shallow water table at the Malheur Field Station, but the soils proved that there was one at one point in time, hundreds of years ago. Because even in 84 and 85 and 87, when that was all flooded, there was no water at the Malheur Field Station above ground. But the soil says there was, but there wasn't. So it was interesting. They were very surprised and very interested.
Thank you.
The test locations that you spoke of in the valley and on Foley and in the forest, were those private properties or county properties?
All private properties. We didn't end up having to use county properties.
Okay.
Good job.
All right, so it is 10:25 and we'll close the public hearing for fee schedule review and move on in the agenda
Thank you much.
to department updates. First department update from Home Health Hospice.
Matt Cole, Director for Home Health Hospice. Just want to give you guys a little update of how we're doing, what's going on. Just made it through our 3-year Medicare state audit. Went fairly okay. Mostly just personnel file things that need to be corrected. Thanks for running those background checks, Lottie, so quickly. Did have a question real quick. Is that just for the state or is that nationwide?
It's just for the
Okay.
state, so the rules around the background checks are, if it's non-law enforcement, it's Oregon only.
Okay,
But if it's law enforcement, then I can do nationwide.
okay. Good to know.
So I do use Google though too, to try to check for anything that might, pop up, news articles, court records. that kind of
Okay,
thing.
all right, perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Patient census is up, we're sitting at 38 folk right now. We're getting referrals every day, which is great. What I have for Bill, though, I've been talking to him about getting a little bit more help for our office staff, maybe even another nurse. We're getting quite a bit of overtime on, for our 2 staff nurse. This is a new thing that McBee's uses. McBee is a billing, assistance for Jan. And they went to doing blocks of time. So right there is, if we buy 20 hours, it's essentially 3,000, but she uses them for more advanced, billing questions, which I think is necessary. So, that's pretty much it.
Do you need a
We're busy.
signature on this?
No, I just want you guys to look at that. She is on the fence with it, but I want you guys to know that's how they're doing it now. It's quite a bit of money, but, yeah, kind of need.
So we had the conversation, just this past week, early this week, whenever it was, feels like Monday. Of course, during the budget process, things were running pretty much status quo, so to speak, and then through the budget process and towards the end of the budget now, they're seeing a spike in patients. It's hard to rework all that right now in the budget. I did send out an email to the budget committee on some changes that I made there, and those were within the 10% adjustments there. But we dipped into the ending fund balance basically a little bit and shored up a couple of lines that might help them with some labor, personal services hours. Next year, or throughout this year, we'll have to see how it goes, and if we're gonna have to do something more throughout the year to shore that up. Or next year, we'll look at something different plan next year,
Sure thing.
if we can make it through this year. If not, then we'll do what we have to do this year.
Appreciate that, yeah.
Question on this.
Yeah.
So the 3,000, is it like from the time you contract with them, and just on an annual, and then if you don't use all 20 hours within that annual, do you lose your hours with them, or how does that work?
As far as we know, no, there's no time limit on it. Once it's used, it's used.
But I like the flexibility, use it when you need it.
Yep.
For the coaching and.
Yeah, it's
support.
nice that you don't
That's
lose
good.
those.
And she's only using 15 minutes at a time.
Yeah, no.
Pretty simple, quick questions. But
Did you say she didn't really want to do it?
she doesn't know,
Okay,
because Jan's real good at the numbers, since we keep an eye on our spending too. So if she's worrying about
Appreciate
it,
that.
I'm worrying as, bringing it to you guys. So, yeah, so.
You're, I don't know what, 100 or so days or so, 120 days or so into your new
Yeah.
role.
Something like that, and hit with an audit right off the bat, which I'm glad, you learned a lot,
Yeah,
so.
good. How's it going?
It's good, yeah. It's good, it's going good, enjoying it, so.
Good, good, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
no
for
worries.
your-
is that audit, a required annual one they do, or is it
So-
a courtesy one?
Every 3 years, they surprise you with it.
Ah,
So CMS, which is the federal government, and then OHA, Oregon. So, they come in and try and find deficiencies. They can't not find anything. So, yeah. It helps. It's a safety net. So,
They were here for several days too, weren't they?
yeah, like 3 or 4 or something like that. She was here for a minute. But,
so at some point will we see their one page or more
so there's.
statement of it was conducted and you were found sufficient, there are a few areas to work on, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want that?
I'd like to see that.
Will they produce something like that for you?
Yeah, so 2 weeks from last Friday, we've got essentially 12 deficiencies. They're all the same, but there's 2 different entities here. So
So
6 on home health, 6 on hospice, and they're all essentially the same.
when it's wrapped up,
Yeah, it's wrapped up. She'll type it up. I'll write a direction plan and we'll just work
sounds
on it.
good. I appreciate all the hard work of you and everybody.
Yeah, me too. They've been working really hard, so. Anyhow,
Thank you, sir.
yes, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Next update, Community Corrections Department.
All right.
Presley.
So anytime I'm asked to give an update, I feel like I spend time going, what am I going to give you guys to update on? But actually, I do have quite a few things that have transpired over about the last year. So back in September, October, I can't remember which month exactly, we brought a trainer here and partnered with Symmetry Care to do Thinking for a Change training to start offering that as a cognitive skills group in partnership with them. And so Symmetry Care and I have been running that for a few months now. We've had some trial and error because of course that's not something I've typically done before. But it's quite interesting and it's going okay. So we're really hopeful to continue that, and we'll probably start our next men's group in November because we have some prison releases between now and then that we should be able to have a full group. And that's been part of the struggle, is just having enough people.
How big of a group?
So in November, we're looking at 5 or 6 men for the group. Right now I have 1. And there's a variety of reasons for that. We started with 3. 1 went to jail for a long period of time. And the other one ended up going back to work full-time. So just some nuances to kind of work through. On the women's group, we had three. And it's kind of a similar scenario there, and we're down to one, but otherwise it's going pretty well. And we're holding that in our office, and Symmetry Care comes down and helps with that, which has been great. Another thing with Symmetry Care is they again have somebody to fill their peer support role, which has been a huge benefit to us. They send them down to our office for a few hours a week, helps us plug offenders in directly with treatment, which is really nice to kind of have that handoff. You know, if they're struggling to get into treatment, they can have that contact in our office and try to help kind of alleviate those barriers. In the past, how that's worked is, you know, sometimes they're calling, helping set up the enrollment from our office while they're sitting there with the person. In another situation where an individual was more mental health focused than they were criminally oriented. The peer support person would go out in the field with me and we'd make contact with that person. And that person actually, I like to kind of share this, she's doing amazing now. It took us a while to get there, but part of that I attribute to the peer support and just having that extra role to kind of help guide them through when, you know, they saw us as the enemy or Symmetry Care as the enemy. The peer role is kind of a neutral, even though they are employed by Symmetry Care, they're kind of a neutral person between our agencies. So that's been really helpful. A couple other notes, we entered into a contact standards pilot that was a result of Senate Bill 1510 from a couple years ago. I don't know if you guys remember that bill, but that was the one that took away what law enforcement can pull vehicles over for, like if there's a missing, you know, an out headlight, out tail light, they can't pull them over. So wrapped into that, they really wanted to limit how we can supervise offenders, which really, you know, brought up some concerns. Thankfully, we were able to have some people on that that helped kind of steer the conversation, that we formed a work group. I was actually part of that work group at the state level. We had former people on supervision on that group. We had treatment on that, directors from across the state, Department of Corrections was on that. We had some other community members and community partners. So it was really interesting to see that group come together and come up with what we did. And that's just one of the things was the manner, time and place and frequency for contacts with offenders. They were trying to take away the employment contacts, which we put some rules around that. There was kind of this misnomer that parole and probation shows up and harasses offenders at their place of employment, which that just doesn't happen. Usually that's a last resort contact. If something serious is going on and we can't locate them, then we make that contact. We try to respect their employment, which I'm glad to see we came to a compromise, because here you can't avoid going to their places of employment. You can't avoid the grocery store, the gas station, the restaurants, you know, and I was really concerned about that, going, hey, we're in a small community, you just can't avoid that contact. So we really came up with some rules around exactly that, the last resort, if there's a significant public safety risk, otherwise not to contact them at work, which makes sense. So we started that, I think.
Was that part of the same bill?
Yeah, part of the same bill.
And what was that again?
SB 1510.
I'm familiar with it, but I've never read it, so I wanna,
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
pretty lengthy.
thank you.
Also on that note, as you guys are probably aware, 4002 is undoing parts of Measure 110 that legalize small amounts of drug possession. That takes effect September 1st. We are hoping to have some kind of uniformity across the state of what supervision for that population looks like. There are 3 different tracks where they will come to supervision. And we did have a sanctioning grid update that DOC incorporated that population, so they have their own kind of sanctioning grid response, because that population, one track of them we can't sanction, another track of them we have up to 30 days jail, and then the other track, they're in jail with the ability to release to treatment. So we have some things that we're hoping to work out around that, because as you can imagine, 36 counties supervise entirely different on everything, and so we're hoping for something a little more solid on that population. Let's see.
Would that be the people that then either fail in the deflection process or program
Mhm.
and then are referred to criminal prosecution?
Yes.
Is that,
Yeah, so I don't have the chart with me, but essentially the folks can enter deflection, which is a referral to treatment from law enforcement. If they don't follow through, the DA then files the paperwork to bring them to court. The first track is a conditional discharge, which essentially is if you complete your time, there's no conviction on your record. If you do your treatment, you're successful, it doesn't go on your record. The second track is, I think if you fail that piece, then you're formal on probation and you have the conviction on your record. And then that third piece is if you don't follow through, you're revoked. And I believe it's up to 6 months in jail.
so even on the first track, there's an avenue for no record.
Correct. And then all the tracks, to have the ability for expungement. So that it'll fall off the record after a period of time. I don't remember,
Is that an automatic expungement or
sort of.
they have to apply for it?
We actually, just in Lipstick the other day, we talked about automatic's not a word that everybody's a fan of, because there's some manpower behind it, but the offender has nothing on their end they have to do. So automatic for them, not automatic for the DA's office or the courts.
What was the
It'll
word they
mean
want to use, presumptive or something like that?
Something like that. I can't remember what the DA said.
So the DA's office will have an annual review that they'll have to go through records and perform that part of the.
Likely, yeah. And then just, I think a couple other points, just to share with you. So being that we're part of the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, as from a probation command council, I'm the chair for that this year. How we track that is you start as the secretary, the following year you move it to co-chair and then chair. So that's been kind of an interesting role for me, to be in. And then as far as our Community Corrections Association, OECCD, we entered strategic planning back in October. And we have 8 primary goals. One of the big ones being about funding, of course, finding more stable funding and sustainable funding. And then the second one being having an executive director for our association, much like the Sheriff's Association, and I think AOC has a similar setup. And somehow I got roped into, I'm leading one of our strategic plans, so that's been a whole new learning curve, and actually is a lot more challenging than I expected, but it's been going pretty well. And then just one other thing is we just completed a cost study within the last couple of months with Department of Corrections. Look, they're taking a look at part of our funding group and what they're working towards, trying to find out what is the actual cost. As you all know, personnel is the highest cost of everybody's budgets, and so they're looking at that in comparison. You know, how much personnel, how much for sanctions and services and overhead and that kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll have some, results or a further plan down the road for that.
Is that end goal is to maybe a better funding model?
I think
the
so.
program?
There is a group that's working on that. I think it's the 1145 work group that was established out of one of the other bills in the past years. They're looking at, does the current model work or not? Is it broken? Is there a better model? There's pros and cons either way. We kind of were in the perfect storm of COVID that delayed things in the courts for 2 years across the state, the Measure 110 legislation. And so now coming back out of that, it'll be interesting to see where we're at in 2 years. Just to see, are we back to where we were before or not?
And your funding, just for the room, is the state biennial funding, right?
Correct. And that is, just for those of you that don't know, it's based on caseload size. So what the state does is every fall, they take 3 months worth of our snapshot of our caseload at that point in time. So the first of every month, they say, what is your caseload size? And they do that across the state for all the counties. And then, they do one final one come April, just to make sure was their projection correct or not. And that's how our funding's based off of. So they take the total amount and then our allocation is, whatever percentage of that is ours. That's how our funding comes through.
I wanted to let you know that the Association of Oregon Counties Legislative Committee approved on Monday or Tuesday, anyway, this week, that for the public safety and veterans, issues, our number one and really only primary, legislative goal is to fully fund a revised community corrections formula that accurately reflects the costs incurred by counties. That is our primary goal for this upcoming legislative session.
I was very happy to see that. You know, it is a problem statewide and even locally. Really, our budget was so small that just on the surface, without moving some other grants around to cover things, it was essentially enough for one PO and to keep the lights on, which that's not a good supervision model for the county. One person, I mean, I don't want to say they can't do it, they could do it, but it's not feasible and you'd run into burnout and, you know, other issues with that.
And here's just a weird question. When they take that snapshot of the 3 months, I mean, is there a better time of year than others to really take that snapshot than just whatever they choose?
You know, it's funny you asked that. It always seems, and this never fails, that always right before the time they do it or right after is when we get 4 or 5 more people on probation. And 4 or 5 people really changes our percentage quite a bit since our numbers are so small. So I have seen both ways where, you know, a month before or a month after, but that April snapshot does help.
Okay, I just didn't know if like
Yeah.
weather affects the recidivism, et cetera. You know,
It can. The other piece of that though is, you know, at what point do they get through court and get sentenced? You know, how long does that take? Because you might have, you know, and it is, there is some attributed to weather too. You know, good weather generally brings people out. They're out longer. It's warmer through the night. So that does play a role, but then the court
just
doesn't
curious.
play on that.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's all I have for you guys. Do you have any questions or?
Yeah, this is when people ask me.
Yeah.
What's the difference between community corrections and parole and probation?
It's the same.
I just want to make sure that I know in case I usually say it's the same, but if
Yeah.
there's anything that's not the same.
So those terms were used before I started in 2015, so I'm not really sure where they came into play. I do know though, there was some discussion about moving away to softer language, and so I think that's where community corrections came out of versus the parole and probation side. But it is the same.
Thank you.
So the term parole and probation from years past in my law enforcement career is what I'm familiar with. Is that term been replaced by community corrections, or are they both still used?
They're both used. It just depends, I think, where you're at. Some of the larger areas call it community justice. And then, you know, they still have community corrections underneath that, or some have parole and probation under that. It just depends where you are.
The term is still used then, okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
Kind of an identity crisis, I guess.
Well, it's trying to create something other than what you are, you know, for the
Yeah.
public perception piece. And, you know, there's parts where you are serving in a community capacity where you're trying to integrate people back into the community. And then there's part where if it's not going well, then it does become more of that probationary
Yeah.
and oversight. piece.
And in
So,
some counties, they have community corrections and then have both the jail and parole and probation kind of under that title. Which is, that's interesting to me too, but.
Well, there's so many areas, DOC, Department of Corrections, usually meant prisons, you know, and stuff. So I can see why in a way some may.
Yeah, and there are
Do that.
two of the parole and probation offices, are under DOC. So there's also that dynamic too.
Final note, budget, since we're getting ready to adopt budget today. The Community Corrections Department in the past several years, sometimes it's needed and sometimes it's not, but there is a transfer built in from the general fund to the Community Corrections Department. In case it's needed for whatever, you know, whatever that budgets end up looking like. I think kind of from what I've seen in the last year and a half, some of your funds come and then they go, and they can be kind of reduced or increased.
Yeah.
At a notice. So I think that points another finger kind of towards those mandates that are fully funded or not funded fully, whatever. It would be nice out of this AOC process and state that we got good, full solid funding for your department. And again, that would decrease the burden, any further burden on the general fund. But, I'll be interesting to hear what
Well,
they're,
I'm glad they put, for what it's worth, the word revised, because community corrections in our state did the most thorough, objective analysis of their work and their costs and all of that, and all that did, because the legislature asked them to do that years ago, and all that did was hurt them later. And yet it made the case for more funding, and legislature just, I mean, sometimes it just really amazed me that when they stepped up and did the best job ever, and it justified funding it appropriately, then the backs were turned, and it was just amazing, so.
And I'm glad you pointed that out. And I think, I don't remember if that was 2016 or 2017, but it was a very in-depth time study where we were tracking the amount of time we were spending on certain offenders, new cases, specialty court cases, which specialty court was an all day, every day, essentially contact and time with them. And at that time I was still the drug court PO. And so I was marking, every time I spent with people. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but based on the work we were doing, it's like the funding should have been here and we're way down here. So, and then, the legislature.
They
rejected
actually
that.
even cut their funding,
Yeah.
and for that, it was like,
We're going backwards.
just shoot me, you know?
Yeah, and they
Gosh.
want us, they want us to do all these things like risk assessments and case plans and things like that. And the discussions right now with the directors are, well, maybe we go back to basics and we're just supervising, doing the minimum and not doing all that extra stuff that takes all the time that's not being funded. So there's some of that going on too.
Yeah,
when you say some of the other stuff beyond that, is that the programs that like this, counseling that you were talking about earlier that might help reduce recidivism and
Yep.
get people on a good
So-
track?
Treatment, housing, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of, there's other programs and other, larger agencies that they're considering just swiping those to. And for us, kind of the point I made was, we're the only ones that provide housing. We don't have OHA in here providing housing. So that would be really detrimental if we're like, hey, never mind, we're not gonna do this, because then we have homeless offenders and that's a whole different barrier, but.
Interesting,
Yeah.
all right. Anything else?
no, thank you, good
Yes, thank you,
update.
very good. All right, then, next topic under old business is the Chalk Creek Ranch mineral deed. Did we receive payment for the?
I think you have to ask Treasurer Heaney.
She's online.
And by the way, I don't know if that opportunity for public comment, is that what we generally do at the very beginning
Yeah.
and move down?
Yeah, I missed it, so I will, back up one.
Okay.
If Treasurer Heaney, if you're on there, if you could step in, let us know if we've received payment for the mineral vacate on the Trout Creek properties. So we'll back up to opportunity for public comment, and we put that down just because of the hearing that we had to have at 10 o'clock. That we had to have at 10 o'clock for the fee schedule, and then the department updates. The last time we had department updates, the individuals got hung on real long, so that's why we moved to public comment down a little ways further. Anyway, so with that being said, any public comment? Anything anybody would like to address the court regarding?
I guess we'll do it this way, please.
Please state your name and
Holly Smith. I'm gonna read it because it's easier for me to do it that way. At the county court meeting on June 5th, the assessor's office reported that there was one taxpayer who owes 1.4 million in back taxes. The primary source of the revenue, this is the primary source of revenue for the county, is property taxes. How can we ensure this type of information is brought to the budget board? This is significant information and should be in our discussions. In the past, the budget board has been given a breakdown of taxes collected and delinquent. I would also like to see a verification or justification of income changes from last year by department to ensure that it is not projected after expenses are calculated. In other words, it is the income calculated after expenses are projected. If income has significantly changed from actual, are we backing into this big number? It has become a tight budget with little leeway for surprises. Please add this to the county record. The comment that I'm making in there is that not for last year's, but each year, make a determination if there is a difference between the income projected, a significant income projection, that we have some justification of why that has done it, so that we aren't, that the department is not backing into projecting their expenses and backing into the income to create their income. So that's what I'm wanted to talk about.
I understand what you're saying there, and I can. This year and last year, I don't see that as happening, that it happened. The step increases were projected, which is basically what's gonna increase your personnel services costs. Step increases and. You know, we really can't create a position outside of the budget process because the FTE is not on the budget. So those would be the only kind of things that would increase that. Step increases this year were projected based on the ability to be able to pay those step increases. And I can't say, speaking for myself, that in the last year and this year's budget, that took place. What we have right now, what we're gonna adopt today, as far as I know, is the actual cost of personnel and labor for the county for the next year.
I do appreciate you bringing the point up, though, that we were made aware that we have a delinquent tax entity out there. And I think that was, news to all of us to that level, and that there needs to be an actual conversation around how we're gonna handle that situation, how we project what to do given the level of delinquent taxes.
Well, and in the past, like I said, we were given that information. We were given the information of how much was collected, what percentage was collected, and what was percentage was delinquent. Having one individual at this high of a rate really should have been brought to the budget board, because it is significant impact to collection of that, of whether or not we're receiving them. Like I said, when we have little leeway in this budget, as you know, Bill, from preparing it, it's how much, we didn't have anything going into the areas that we wanted to do.
Right, but we are projecting that we're receiving that income, and so it
Correct.
does create a false scenario if that income isn't received, and so, no, I do appreciate that, and I do believe we need further conversation around it, because I'd love to hear even from Treasurer Heaney, given this type of scenario, this isn't something we've necessarily had happen. Tax collection has
No.
been in the high 90s, previous, and so.
I would refer this to the assessor and the tax collector.
Yeah, and that's basically what I wanted to have.
And
They bring to the budget the next time information.
yeah, and I would say, like, this is Assessor Zabala's, this is her first or second year, but, maybe there's just a conversation we have that we'd like to have this information and then it's provided. So,
Well,
yeah, I agree.
I made a note of it, and I'll make it part of our budget process next year to make sure that those numbers are included.
Yeah, I just think it's, like this year,
It's
it
very
was a shock.
well, and Lake County, experienced a situation where they had some reduction, and it hit the
Exactly.
fan, and they had to do a lot of drastic things. And so you're very right. We have to be aware, every year, and maybe, as the year is progressing too. And keep that in mind, that we've been budgeting for a while based on kind of a stable tax revenue situation here, but that could change. So, thank you.
So do you think there's any chance that we would get that money, or is it just gonna be lost forever?
Well, I wouldn't say lost forever, like any other, like any other delinquent tax amount. If, say on a house, on a residence, past due taxes are $5,000 and it goes through the entire process until it becomes a foreclosure and the county gets ownership of it. Then when the county sells that property, the back tax portion of it and fees with it, which is right now is in kind of a limbo status because of the case law, Supreme Court case law on that. So we don't really know how we're gonna proceed. We're waiting on, hopefully, next year's legislative session will have a full solution on how to proceed with these pieces of property that the county owns. But we'll get back. I don't know for sure the amount that those back taxes are on a commercial piece of property. If I'm thinking correctly on which count that is and everything. And potentially if it goes that far before it was sold or liquidated by the current owner, and then the county received its back taxes, then the county, if it goes all the way to foreclosure, then sale of it could get us our funds back.
If it's worth anything when they sell it.
You know, there was a comment made when I listened to the June 5th report, and the last part of the comment made was, well, we're doing just as well in collection as most counties. And we have to keep,
Yeah, it
we
doesn't
have to
matter.
not-
Yeah.
exactly, we cannot go that direction. We have to ensure that it's, I mean, that was an old statement.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to do some research, but I don't know what we could do to affect change in collecting those. I mean,
Well,
the
Yeah, it was.
owner either has it or doesn't have it, or, you know, I mean, the only remedy is that if it runs all the way out to foreclosure and then we recoup our
It's
back
a very
taxes that way.
timely
6 years.
process,
But
yeah.
you know, at any point is it can be, you know, I don't know if it's considered harassment, but to accrue that much, it seems like no taxes have been paid. To accrue that high. You know,
Yeah,
I
and
don't know.
those are details that I
Yeah,
don't know
and I don't-
enough about.
Yeah, I'm not,
She
I'm
gave
just
us a
making-
high level scenario of what's going on, and I didn't know if she could share anything further than that, given her particular case. She shared what she could with us, as far as I understood.
so I just needed it to be.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Your name, please, for the record.
Susan Ramsey. Is this, delinquent tax part of the, listed as part of the income for the county? Or is it something that you can defer so you can calculate what your actual profit or loss is, not counting on that? Does that make sense? Are you calling it potential income and you really aren't sure when it's gonna come?
Well, in the budget process, we get an estimate from the assessor's office on estimated taxes to be collected. And there's a line for that in the budget. If that comes in less, then yeah, we're gonna be less, and our revenues are gonna be less, and we're gonna be in the red, so to speak, if that happens. Going forward, you know, like next year, if we got all those taxes back, then it would be in some respect additional revenue. Because we weren't in the red in years past, but it doesn't clear up the books from years past. It only reflects this year's books, this year's budget.
But if you include it in your total projected income,
Yes, it is being included as
Yes.
such.
it needs to have an asterisk and something under the bottom line that says how risky it is to assume that's gonna be collected.
Yeah.
So you gotta figure out these.
Yeah, so if we considered it in that manner, then it would be like holding money off to the side, and we have to make sure that we appropriate enough at all other categories or all other revenue sources to be able to conduct business without that piece of money. And if we get that piece of money, it's an extra. Yes.
Thank you. I would just like to make the comment that like, most of our revenues are projected. And so, I mean, I do completely understand the conversation that's happening here. I think it would be beneficial to maybe talk to the assessor a little bit more about it and have a better understanding, but all of the revenues within our budget are projected. So,
But you don't have any notations that you're projecting, your projections include this very
Yeah.
expensive.
I think this could become definitely a work session topic to kind of have a better understanding and flesh it out a little more of how it will potentially affect us budgetarily and with our projected budget and the projected income, you know, having that in mind as we move forward and being able to monitor it, it definitely is something I think is worthy of a specific work session, just to talk about this type of scenario, because as we saw with Lake County, they didn't project that there would ever be a bankrupt entity affect their taxes like this. And especially given the fact that this is a commercial property, you know, things in the business world do go south occasionally. And so, yeah, I think it's worthy of further discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other public comment? All right, thank you. So then, moving on, old business, the Chalk Creek Ranch mineral deed.
We're at 11.
Yeah,
So
real quick, Lyco, did we receive a check or funds from Chalk Creek for the mineral rights?
yes.
We have received it, okay. That's all I needed to ask them before we executed the deed. I needed to know if we received the funds or not.
You should do that now.
So next topic is, and it's 11 o'clock, we have scheduled, a resolution 2024-21 adoption of the budget and public hearing as advertised in, the local paper for 11 o'clock. It's, 11:04, a couple minutes after, so we will, move into that public hearing. I want to thank the budget committee. This year, we did a lot of work on the budget and, hopefully it's work that will, pave the way for next year and future budgets. So, any discussion, from the county court?
No, there were a couple of very minor things that you emailed all of us, the budget committee, about, which you had anticipated always happens between our approval and now our adoption, and all of it's okay. So I don't have anything.
Once we adopt it today, it's locked in, you know, other than by resolution or supplemental budget, it will be as is today.
And one thing I'd like to point out is that, when budget changes can be made to funds because 10% or less is the amount that's being done, then you don't need a resolution, but it says that decision's made by the governing body, not by the budget officer or the administrator, whatever. So that should always be a county court
Yes.
together
And I-
decision, and it hasn't been in the past, and when you sent out that highlighted areas of the Oregon budget manual, that was clear, so I'm glad to see that.
And I would think there's nothing that precludes it, that any adjustments that way that fall even within under that 10% limit, that we should still do a resolution. It just documents and tracks what's being done.
Well, at least so it's public, and there's no, oh, what happened here? Oh, a unilateral decision was made, nobody was informed.
Have we received any email or letters or anything as far as public comment towards the budget?
No, sir.
Okay, so then I will open it up to public comment for the public hearing portion of the budget process. Any comments from the public regarding the approved 2024-25 Harney County budget? I'm not hearing or seeing any. resolution 2024-21 in the matter of adopting the budget and making appropriations. It's part of the packet. It's pretty lengthy with all the different funds, so I'm not gonna read it, verbatim, but I will, couple of paragraphs and, a summary. Be it resolved, the County Court of Harney County hereby adopts the budget approved by Budget Committee for fiscal year 2024-2025 in the total sum of $63,059,800, now on file at the office of the Harney County Clerk. Be it resolved that the amounts for the fiscal year beginning July 1 and for the categorical purposes shown below are hereby appropriated as follows. And as a summary for that, we created 3 new funds this year. We created a fair event project fund. And what we did there is, grant monies that came to the fair for the event center had been put into the fair fund itself. It really skewed the numbers in the operations of the fair budget and didn't really reflect an accurate operations of the fair itself. Those funds are specific for purpose to that project. So therefore, and that's one of the authorizing reasons of creating a fund is when funds are established to hold monies to be accountable and expended for a specific purpose under ORS 294.388 and 294.346. Another fund that we created was Fund 231 Courthouse Annex Grant. During the legislative session last year, Senate Bill 5506, Section 27 of the Oregon legislative session authorized $3 million for courthouse renovations, courthouse annex renovations. So those funds correction, that will be new fund will be Fund 234. All right,
231.
231. Do I have something in my language here mixed up? County Court.
231.
Yeah, but I'm just making sure that I didn't have language in the body of the resolution confused. I do. Oh, no, that's B Street. Purpose of fund is grants money. It's 3 million. Yeah, see, I've got, that's what was throwing me right there. I've got a sentence in there that's. So, whereas when it was provide fiscal accounting for the city of Burns.
So, go up and stick there. Right. There's something going on between that one and that one there.
Can you pull that up? And just delete.
Well, B Street one looks to me like it's in order. It is, just a paragraph under
This
the annex.
sentence right here.
Courthouse annex.
Yeah. Yeah, because it says B Street and that's in the next.
Oh, this one, yeah.
You need it in the next one or?
Yes, if you can copy and paste that. Paste it in between, down below in the next one. Right here.
You should be having. Did you fix it in the first?
And did you cut that out already?
No, I didn't. I just opened this one, like literally the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, keep going. This right there, cut that. Down, put it in right here,
Really, we'll get
in between these two paragraphs. Yeah, okay. So we moved that down to the next fund where it's supposed to be. So this is Courthouse Annex Grant Fund. It'll be the title of it. The fund will be number 231. We received $3 million for that purpose. And And that's it for that one. The next fund that we created will be, therefore is resolved that the following fund is created. Fund name will be B Street Expansion Grant, and it'll be fund number 234. Purpose of this fund is to receive grant monies in the amount of $2,250,000 in accordance with Senate Bill 556, Section 256 of the 2023 Oregon Legislative Session in a direct legislative appropriation. This project will be conducted in cooperation with the city of Burns and will bring needed infrastructure to county-owned industrial zone property for economic development. Project reimbursements will be submitted to the Oregon Business Development Department and receipted to this fund. As the contracting agency, the city of Burns will submit invoices for reimbursement and monies will then be paid to the city of Burns. All the other funds are as listed. Their appropriation amounts for personal services, materials, and supplies, interfund transfers, contingencies, reimbursed items, and total general and total funds appropriated for each one of the specific funds. The total, as I previously mentioned, the total amount for all funds budgeted appropriated is $63,554,800. Total unappropriated funds, the primary bulk of these are road department funds, but the total unappropriated funds are $18,735,665. Any further discussion?
No, thank you for correcting that.
Yeah, but I was reading through it and I'm like, wait a minute, I was talking about the courthouse. Why did B Street pop in there? So I had a sentence in the wrong place.
Well, it was right below it, so I hadn't caught it.
If there's no other discussion, I would entertain a resolution, or I mean, a motion.
I move to approve resolution 2024-21 in the matter of adopting budget and making appropriations as previously read.
I second.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 2024-21 in the matter of adopting the budget and making appropriations. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries.
You see, you're planning to, if you stay here, you vote in favor of all that. Right. But it's okay.
I know Commissioner Shellman has got
Urgent business.
another commitment, so I'm gonna move on here real quick. Like the next, as far as the budget goes, that we need to, a matter of business that we need to take care of is imposing and categorizing the 2024-2025 taxes in the county of Harney County. Resolution 2024-18, be it resolved that the county court of Harney County hereby imposes the taxes provided for in the adopted budget at the rate of 4.5016 per $1,000 of assessed value for appropriations, and that these taxes are hereby imposed and categorized for general government for tax year 2024-25 upon the assessed value of all taxable property within the district. Any discussion, questions?
Is that an increase? Is that an increase?
No, this is actually a fixed set amount by measure, was it measure 50?
I believe so.
I think it was measure 50 that set it, and it's the same every year. It's set by,
Measure 5 or 50. Or there was a change from both. Rick, you're in you're our encyclopedia, which measure this was it 5 or 50?
The tax rate that.
This is 50.
50, that's what.
Yeah, thank you.
Five got it more restricted.
Okay,
It was 3% maximum. Now you can do 5% maximum. Actually, we could go up if we wanted. But bonding allows us to have the extra.
thank you.
Any further discussion? I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2024-18 in the matter of imposing and categorizing 2024-25 25 taxes in the County of Harney, State of Oregon, as read.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. For the approval of resolution 2024-18 in the matter of imposing and categorizing 2024-2025 taxes in the County of Harney, State of Oregon. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And that concludes the budget cycle for this year. That's an ongoing process, but the bulk of it.
I think we know where all the dollars are and where they aren't, finally, after many years.
And so still good taxes.
Yeah, always more to happen than.
The next item that we're gonna take care of is, and I need,
I'm gonna take the two that I haven't signed, and I'll return them to Tammy
Okay.
this afternoon.
is in the matter of mineral rights deed, conveying the mineral rights to Trout Creek Ranch. And we have received those fees, so all we have to do is sign this, and we've had the public hearing at the last county court session on this. It was just a matter of receiving those fees and conveying those mineral rights in the deed. So, do you want to sign this real quick, Mike? I don't think we need a resolution or anything for it.
Because we already did the motion.
Yeah.
Last time, yeah, I. Thank you.
Question on format, looks strange, the top of the first page. Is that how deeds look? Or deed resolution?
I worked with Dag Robinson on this, the county clerk.
That's what they look like? Okay.
Copy of the resolution.
Okay, by me.
All right, the next item on the agenda is, under new business is, presenting a policy review. It says Lieutenant Worley, but I see the sheriff here, so are you ever stand-in?
Lieutenant Worley's at another meeting at 11. So she said she would try and keep the Zoom on, but I'm kind of staying in.
Okay.
Sitting in.
Lieutenant Worley, are you on there, or do you, need the sheriff to proceed in your stay? Got your mute on if you're trying to talk. If not, I'm gonna presume that you're busy with something else. Looks like you're up, Sheriff.
Good. My understanding of it, it's part of the jail inspection process and, the jail standards, have been updated and for the next, I think it's 25 jail inspection. There was a new policy put out, and did she provide you guys copies of it? I think she's gonna be, okay.
I have a hard copy and there's a copy on the
We have
packet.
plenty of time to look at it,
Okay,
yeah.
and it just suggested the independent approval by the county court for it, but it's basically for public information requests and the fees and everything with it, and county council's already looked it over and approved it.
They look very thorough, look reasonable. And with all those eyes on it, I'm inclined to recommend approval here.
Are these fees that are listed on here, are these, did these increase any, or are they?
I'm not sure where they got those fees from. I know we have set fees just for regular without front office type public information requests. I haven't gone through all these fees that she sent. I do have it via email.
I'm gonna say,
Does the county fee schedule overall that includes many fees include this as well or not? Is it separate?
I don't know for sure, but part of these I would say are, especially when it's talking about copying fees, and those should be the same as the clerk's office and what they charge for copies, I would believe. And maybe that comes right out of his fee schedule.
Is this something that needs to be approved today? Or would you like us to just,
I don't know
Get
that
some
there's a
eyes on.
time limit or a rush or anything. She didn't mention that. So if we need to wait, then we can wait.
I don't-
Let's do that then. Let's table this just so we have a chance to review these fees and make sure that they're a part of either a part of the main fee schedule, or if they're standalone, if there's more that we need to do. If we need to do a resolution to adopt those fees, or
and if they're consistent with photocopy and fees of other departments? If you all don't mind, I think that'd be good.
yeah, I would agree. And that brings us to the end of our new business. Since you're here, Sheriff, have you got anything you'd like to speak to for your department? I'm gonna throw you on the stage there.
No, we're just doing what we're doing.
Okay,
Trying to operate within the budget. Glad it's a new budget year. And appreciate the vehicle.
911,
Going strong. I'll get, I wanted to, I got quite a lot of time, so I missed the budget presentation, but I guess everything's good to go.
yeah, no. This resolution adopts what we had, and so, the changes that you had come in and talked to me about a week or so ago, are reflected in this. Okay. Correspondence. I don't have any.
Do we need to officially do the mineral, the Trout Creek Ranch mineral rights? I know,
But we'd already done the order for it, the county order, like during the last county court session, so this was just a matter of conveying those rights.
okay,
So I don't think there's any action.
no,
needed at
no
this point.
vote or anything.
Yeah, because we'd already done that during the order in the last session.
I trust your recollection, I just,
And we could have taken care of this during the last session, but we didn't get the amount to the applicant, the fee amount to the
you
applicant.
say so, that's fine with me.
So, I'm gonna say we're good on that one. Just needed our signatures on it. Correspondence, I don't have anything. Does you have any correspondence?
No,
Scheduling.
you know, I would like us to schedule some work sessions pretty soon. We don't have to do it today. We can do it when Commissioner Shellman's here, but my thinking is that the fiscal analysis is something we need to talk about some more, whether we really need one or not. As I've seen what few proposals come forward, I don't think that's really what we might need. And so we might be able to save money and work it out with the three of us being the ones to try to lay out our thinking and come up with kind of a guideline for as we have to meet some of these fiscal challenges. Priorities. So I think we should talk about that again. And then the strategic planning that Treasurer Heaney and folks think is a good thing. We need to find out more what everybody wants. Good strategic planning means you got everybody, all the players there through the whole thing. And you have a good facilitator to move it along and yet capture things. And I'm all for that, but I just know how hard it is to get people to a meeting. I mean, including myself, I've got double booked on all kinds of things all the time. And so just want to hear how we ought to go about it. Some of these things that were talked about during the budget committee meetings, you know, we need to, I don't know what you want to call this work session, but I kind of want to look at, we need to start doing things, not just let them wait till the second half of the year on certain key things and just get that lined out. I'd like to do that.
It's not an agenda item, but just for general deliberation, discussion. During the budget process, we did discuss the library and its budget. As discovered in the ORSs, the requirement for public hearings for that process. We have to advertise a couple of times in the newspaper and put public notice out that we're gonna have a hearing on that topic. That advertisement has been placed in the newspaper. I think it comes out the first time this week. And it has to run twice and then 30 days from the second running. We're looking at about August 7th is when we'll have the first hearing on that topic. During that time, it is my intent to work with the director, the library director, looking at their programs and their budget in its entirety. And then have that background information available for those public hearings. Then we have to have another public hearing after that. I think it's 90 days after that. We have to have another public hearing after that. So we're starting those processes, which was some of the topics that were discussed during the budget committee
Yeah, no, that's good.
meetings.
And just even at our work session, even just, you know, finding things out about when are we gonna advertise for elected official compensation board, and just kind of reschedule things to the right months of the year to get them done. Because a lot of things are happening so late for our budget process.
Yeah.
Just gonna get that all lined out.
As a team, it's a work in progress.
And then once we know what month those, notices go out and stuff, we can it can just become a matter of practice.
I'd like to, we do other appointments, position appointments in January. And it would be we need to have a new position appointed for the budget committee in January as Mr. Paul's term ends in December. So it'd be good to have that announced and bulletined and recruited and find somebody for that in January. As well as
But
the elected officials committee at the same time.
Well, I'd like to even back it up a few months from that. We could talk about it at a work session.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything's just so last minute.
All right, so then, scheduled meetings. Coming up, we do have a work session planned for next Thursday at noon for the Justice Center project, Jail Justice Center project. And since all three of us were gonna be in attendance to that, we felt it was appropriate to bulletin on calendar and the county schedule. So as to avoid, as a work session, to avoid any quorum issues there.
And this is our economic development coordinator, Greg Smith, who is in his role as economic development and other things, is working to help with this. And he suggested we have people around the table on this, looking at Grant County Jail and other things, and start talking some specifics.
It was his suggestion that we do this on a weekly basis for a while and try and get this moving along and figure out where we're gonna end up with it.
So is it here?
Trying to think how many people we'll have. We should be able to hold it here in the courtroom. There'll be a Zoom element to it.
Is that for the public or just?
Yes, work sessions are open to the public. During work sessions, there's no public comment, or it's just a work session amongst the governing body and other entities that are part of the topic.
I missed the time.
Noon.
Yeah.
Regularly scheduled county court sessions. Okay,
Just on your work schedule, the other thing that was talked about in the budget cycle was the meeting with the board at the senior center.
yes.
That'll be laid out too I was just making a list. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind.
We'll in that instance, we'll probably do a joint session with their board and the county court. Or a joint
Well,
work
that-
session,
Well, the first work session will just be all these things, just to lay out
yeah.
that kind of conversation and then proceed after that, yeah.
Regular scheduled court meetings, June or July 3rd and 17th.
Yes,
Any other meetings of importance you'd like to note?
just all the usual stuff. Haircut on the 18th.
General deliberation. Commissioner Doyle?
Maybe just mention that kind of it's the end of the year on the broadband stuff and where we sit. And so, Harney County, contracted with GEODC that had technical, staff to assist us. We established a broadband action team. We held meetings. We had partners at the table. We, contracted for a rapid design study, which was a really cool thing, particularly for the internet service providers who are trying to, you could plug in variables for everything from 100% wireless to 100% fiber, all your mileage, all your things. It was really awesome tool. But to my knowledge, these big grants that are just starting, so the first small grant, we were disappointed that we did not meet the cut for getting a year of technical assistance, the broadband technical assistance program. We did not get that. So with our budget situation, we will not be contracting another year for technical assistance. We brought it as far as we can bring it with our resources. I feel comfortable saying that. I'm now connected with a lot of the different work groups and things at the state level and otherwise in the Oregon Broadband Office, so I can kind of keep my ear to the ground on things. The two big grants, federal money that comes through now, Oregon, DDP and BEAD. BDP, MyWave did submit an application, and they won't know till October if they're gonna get funded. They're the only ISP that I know of, internet service provider. It's up to those guys to submit for these very complicated grants that submitted anything. I think our big challenge is having a well-resourced ISP want to do work here, want to compete and get those grants so they can do it. But anyway, and then the BEAD one happens a little bit later. So the things left to do, we had our last BAT meeting Tuesday, is I've got a request for interest that I'm gonna want the county court to possibly sign off on us getting out there in the different venues you can across the state, that will just lay out, just show Harney County's got a lot of broadband stuff to be done. We are poised and ready to assist you, and it's just basically just let them know, don't forget about us if anyone wants to. And then also I'll be convening a meeting with ODOT, BLM, the electric co-ops, et cetera, our planning department around permitting and things like that happen when you do get broadband projects going, and how to help facilitate some of those processes so that they're not a total red tape goat rope. So at least have those conversations. We don't need a contractor to do that. I can do that. So we'll be doing that right now with changeover at BLM and stuff. It's not a perfect time to do it, and it's not urgent, and we do it right this month anyway. So that's what's left to be, that, at least from my point of view, that we're doing. And I think it was worth doing, but now we'll just see. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. Be interesting to see if the Oregon Broadband Office grants very much in our direction, because they're supposed to. They're supposed to go to those communities that are unserved and underserved, and we are one of those. But we don't have a lot of people, and politics are politics, and it'll just be interesting to see. But I will continue to write letters, sometimes if the county court wants to all sign it, or just me as a commissioner, that will tactfully, but a little bit forcefully, say, we're looking forward to hearing how you're going to serve our community. We've participated to the best of our ability at every juncture. Please contact us, because we you know, you need to fulfill your role. So, that's kind of, proceeding unless you want to do otherwise, but, it's been a real interesting journey and, we'll see. That's all I had on that.
And I kind of jumped over, but, just on the note of the public hearing for the, advertising for the library's budget. I don't really have anything else for general discussion, general deliberation either. And with that being said, no further business on the agenda, we shall stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Budget Committee. You guys.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
We should make sure you have to give us the name of who's gonna take it.
Recruit.
Yeah. We have to recruit before you go.
I was hoping.
Yeah.
The other thing.
You guys, it was quite a season and I think you all did great. And I think the hardest is yet to come, unfortunately, but at least we kind of know where we're at. And
I did work on
really,
this.
really glad you brought that up, Holly.
And I'm sorry I didn't do it during the public comment I didn't know you were gonna have a public comment during the budget process, so I tried
That's
it.
okay.
But,
Good.
yeah, I was alarming.
I know, I'm like,
Well, and when I listened to it last night, Bill's reaction was